Good morning. Today we look at Isaiah 20, 21, and 22. And chapter 20, it's just a little short chapter, but it's in the year that commander-in-chief, who was sent by King Sargon of Assyria, came to Ashdod and fought against it and took it. At that time, the Lord spoke to Isaiah. And so, for the people of the day, when this was written, they knew when this was, when this person came. But he says, go, loosen your sackcloth, take your sackcloth off. And this was the dress of a prophet, evidently. They dressed in sackcloth. They weren't dressed well. They didn't come with their suit and tie on for sure. But he'd take it off. And so he's naked. And, prisoners were naked. Somebody was in prison working, this was a way to keep them captive. They weren't going to run off. They didn't have any clothes on. But Isaiah is told by God to take your clothes off, be naked. In 3 years he was like this. Can you imagine? I mean, I would have hidden in a cave somewhere and never come out, I think. But, so, and in verse 3, the Lord says, just as my servant Isaiah has walked naked and barefoot for 3 years as a sign and a portent against Egypt and Ethiopia, so shall the king, lead these away. And he's saying, this is what Isaiah has done. And just as surely as Isaiah was naked and barefoot for 3 years, this is what's going to happen to the king of Assyria. And, and they're going to be taken and dismayed and confounded. They will be defeated, and then chapter 21, it says the oracle concerning the wilderness of the sea. And I mean, when you think about the wilderness of the land, you think of, I think of a barren wasteland, like a desert. But the wilderness of the sea, what is that? I mean, the sea is water. But anyway, so there's, some, as the whirlwind swept on, it comes from the desert, from a terrible land. Stern vision is told to me. The betrayer betrays and the destroyer destroys. And those are, this is Satan. This is the Antichrist. It's, it's probably not exactly what they're talking about here, but, the betrayer. I mean, Satan will, he betrays us all the time. He's out to destroy us. He's seeking that. And, so these people that are coming against Jerusalem, against the Jewish nation, the Israelites, and God is saying that they're going to be destroyed. I mean, this is what they've done, but, this is going to happen to them again as well. I am bowed down so that I cannot hear. I am dismayed so I cannot see. My mind reels horror. So Isaiah is seeing terrible things that are going to happen this is speaking against Babylon, against the Assyrians, and this was part of what was in chapter 20 as well, as it was against the Assyrians. It says they prepare the table, they spread the rugs, they eat, they drink, but then the Lord says, go post a lookout and let him announce what he sees, and so the watchman stands watching and warning for the riders to come. And Babylon is fallen in verse 9. Babylon is fallen. All the images of her gods lie shattered on the ground. And so this is what, God said through the prophet Isaiah to these Assyrians, these from Babylon, that, your kingdom is not going to last. Your empire is going to fall. And then verse 11 starts out, it says against Duma, which is in another country, Edom, and it's, what of the sentinel, what of the night, sentinel, what of the night, and morning comes, and also the night, and I don't really understand that part in there, but, what of the night, the morning comes, and also the night. If you inquire again, come again. But, but morning comes, there's always hope. I mean, no matter in the deepest, darkest places, there's always hope. And I saw a deal, about, a man who was just depressed and just really down and out and just sitting in a dark room, and his wife, his daughter, and grandchild come, and his wife turns the light on, And the daughter hands the grandchild to this man, and he holds it. And in holding that child, he held it for an hour, it said, but in holding that child, this is the future. This is, a child born to me is God's way of saying the future is worth living, and if there wasn't a promising future, I mean, and I thought, when Cheryl and I have talked about, when we had kids, do we really want to, have kids, with everything going on? But, God says, in a baby, life is good, life is going on, and there's treasures there. And so this person who was sitting there just down and out and just, at a low, in holding this baby, this new life, and this is what the dawn, this is what the morning is. It's new life. And God promises that to the Israelites, even though there is darkness, even though it's night, even though it seems like it's going to last forever, hope is there, and dawn will come in the morning, and it's, and for all of the years that they waited and watched for the Messiah, it was always, God will be faithful to God's word. There will be, the offspring of David will come, and we know it took quite a few years, quite a few generations, but Jesus was born, and so light comes, morning comes, but there's always, there's morning, there's night, there's ups and downs. Life is never set on an even keel, but God is always there. And then verse 13, the oracle concerning the desert plain, and this is, I don't know, the desert plain, Arabia maybe, I don't know, but it is, talking about another caravans, of Dedanites, whoever they are. In the scrub of the desert you will lodge, bring water to the thirsty, meet the fugitive with bread, they fled with swords, and then in verse 16, here's what God says, for the Lord says to me, within a year, according to the years of a hired worker, all the glory of Kedar will come to an end, and the remaining bowls of Kedar's warriors will be few, for the Lord God of Israel has spoken. So again, it's against this nation, against these people that are oppressing Israelite. They're not whom God would have to be there. And then verse 22, again, it starts, the valley, an oracle concerning the valley of vision. And he says, what do you mean? You've gone up to all of you, to the housetops, and you're full of shouting, tumultuous city, exultant town, and your leaders have fled together. They were captured without use of a bow. And so it's, God again, delivering the Israelites. For the Lord God of hosts has a day of tumult and trampling, the battering down of walls, and they can't stand against God that way. And this is also speaking against Jerusalem. It's a reminder to the Jews that, when they're not faithful, there will be others, oppressors, that will come in and conquer them. And, in verse 12, in that day the Lord of hosts called to weeping and mourning, to baldness, putting on sackcloth, but instead it says there was joy and festivity. And I don't really quite understand everything that's going on here. It's just, I think it would take an awful lot more study to know exactly who. I mean, there's talk of Tyre in here, and well, that's, getting into the next chapter, but, it's just so much going on of people, God speaking against different nations, God warning the Israelites. And in verse 20 of chapter 22, on that day I will call my servant Eliakim, and I will clothe him with your robe and bind your sash on him. So is he speaking here to Isaiah and telling Isaiah who's going to be the next prophet? I haven't done enough research on this to know just exactly what all is going on, but there's a lot of warnings come from God. And the last, verse 25, he talks about having pounded a peg into a wall. He says, on that day, the Lord says, the peg that was fastened in a secure place will give way. It will be cut down and fall, and all the load that was on it will perish. So some nation, some king, some, that's seemingly undefeatable, something that is there forever, is going to fail. And, it's against some other nation, some other city, and again, it could be against the Jews and the Israelites. But the prophets speak, and I mean, trying to understand some of what they're saying is a lot harder for me than trying to make sense of some of the parables in the New Testament. But in and through all of it, it's that God continues to encourage, lead, and guide His people. And one of the things that the duty of the prophet is to bring the word of the Lord, to tell them of what's going to happen, and to encourage them to again be faithful to God.